and welcome to the Boulder Basement Broadcast, a student-run broadcast right here at CU Boulder. I'm Jimmy Searfoss.
And I'm Sarah Grimm. We've got a range of stories from ways to cope with mental health problems, the art of theater, to baking bread.
But first, we have to take a look at the latest on cannabis use in Boulder. The pandemic took its toll in many ways, both physically and mentally. It also saw an increase in cannabis use. But since the end of the pandemic, Boulder County saw a 26% decrease in cannabis sales tax revenue just over this past year. Our correspondent Nathaniel Hankins is here with the story.
Taxes work a lot like this tree. Water, or your money, is gathered up by the roots, where it then filters in with the rest of the money that's collected from all kinds of different sources like sales tax, property tax, etc. And it meets up with the rest of it, and then it goes up and out and up to the people and the services that are needed, like infrastructure and helping other people. By looking at the roots of the tree, we can judge a plant, or a tree in this case, health. Cannabis sales took a 26% decrease this year across all of Boulder. So the question becomes, why now? To find out what it means, we have to start at the source, City Council, and Bob Yates was happy to explain it to us.
We did see an increase in cannabis sales tax during the pandemic, especially in 2020 and 2021, and where it historically pre-pandemic had been about $4.5 or $5 million, it shot up to about $5.5 million in those years. And anecdotally, we had just heard that people were using more cannabis when they were, enclosed in their homes. They weren't working. They were looking for distractions. They were looking for some sort of entertainment. Sometimes people, maybe it was a bit of a release for them. There's a lot of reasons why people may have alcohol consumption in the country also increased during the pandemic. So I think people were just looking for things to do and maybe escape a little bit.
COVID presented everyone with unique challenges, and Dr. Bidwell was able to share some light as to why people may have leaned more into cannabis during the pandemic.
Cannabis was open, cannabis was available, and people use cannabis for a lot of different reasons. One of them is intoxication, pleasure, reward, that kind of thing. And so with fewer access to other rewarding or social activities, maybe cannabis was one of the go-tos. An interesting thing we do see is there's sort of this substitution effect with alcohol. So not across necessarily all types of users, and I can get into more of the details of this, but there is sort of a certain type of recreational user, or someone who's using these substances more for pleasure or socially motivated reasons, that there's often this balance of more alcohol, less cannabis, more cannabis, less alcohol. So it's kind of this substitution effect that ends up, for lack of a better word, I would guess substance use went up in general. We know that for sure. So we might not have seen that totally dramatic substitution effect, but there may be something there where when people were using more cannabis because they were not able to go out to bars or drink as much, there may have been some substituting for other substances of abuse that they would typically have engaged in.
Connor Dunthan, a neuroscientist with multiple years of experience, says that he went into the pandemic with the intentions of cutting back.
And so I stopped smoking kind of right when COVID started for a few weeks, then kind of fell back on it, both as recreation and also just because being alone all the time in quarantine was just kind of rough, and it was better for me than drinking a bunch of beers a day, because that's what I felt like I wanted to do. Medical is definitely one that I can speak on confidently. I have seen a significant decrease in the amount of people that come in to shop for medical cannabis.
Bob Yates says that while less money for the city is not technically ideal, in this case what we're actually seeing is a return to normal.
We have now, since the pandemic has faded over the last couple of years, we've seen a reversion back to that mean on the cannabis sales tax. So I think last year was about 4.4 or 4.6 million. I think next year we're projecting it's going to be in that kind of mid-4 range. And so that's really been historically our mean.
The influx from the pandemic helped the city to weather the storm, but really what we're seeing is a return to normal. It's fascinating to think, but years later, we're still seeing side effects from the pandemic. I'm Nathaniel Hankins, and back to the basement.
Marijuana use in Boulder is intended for private or personal use only. Its consumption may occur only in private property and not in hotels or Boulder open spaces. Consequences for violating marijuana laws can include a fine or even jail. The Boulder County Sheriff's Office encourages users to know the law first and to use marijuana responsibly and safely.
Coming up after the break, stories about student athletes on campus and their struggles with mental health. Stay tuned.
Recent surveys show that college athletes are reporting higher levels of mental exhaustion and anxiety. Many student athletes think that mental health should be a priority in their athletic department.
But some tough-it-out approaches to mental health concerns can lead to negative attitudes about seeking help. I visited with CU lacrosse player Taylor Smith, who found herself in a unique position to help others.
Eat, sleep, breathe, lacrosse. That has been the life for CU women's lacrosse player Taylor Smith for as long as she can remember. Starting from a young age, the New Jersey native committed her life to sports, more specifically lacrosse. Taylor spent countless hours dedicating herself to the sport and perfecting her craft.
My favorite part about playing my sport is that it's really taught me that I'm so much more capable than I think and that I can overcome adversity, and I've grown so much and discovered who I am.
Many people think the life of a student athlete is very glamorous and exciting. And while it has its perks, it's also extremely stressful and demanding, both mentally and physically.
From freshman year all the way to where I am now, I struggled with various things from imposter syndrome, anxiety, depression, eating disorders.
The struggles that Taylor has faced has not only taught her strength, but also that she's much more than just her sport.
From that, I really learned that lacrosse is not my identity. It doesn't define who I am. It's just something I do. It's not me. So it definitely hasn't been easy, but I honestly wouldn't change it for the world because I wouldn't be where I am today without all of the struggles I face.
Along with expanding her interests outside of lacrosse, Taylor has used her experiences to inspire others and be an advocate for other student athletes.
To do a senior thesis for an English class, and I decided to make an Instagram page dedicated to health and wellness. It started basically as more of a physical health account, and it was during COVID, so I wanted to motivate people to eat healthy, to work out, so I'd share my meals and workout videos and just give different inspirational tips through captions that I would write.
After finding success with her Instagram and blog, Taylor decided to try something new.
I chose to do a website basically on mental health and collegiate athletes. It's called At Life by Athletes. Basically, I collected stories from over 50 plus collegiate athletes, male and female, from across the country at different levels and had them share their mental health story in a blog, and I would post it on my website. And that also received a lot of good feedback from that, and it encouraged people to speak up about mental health and destigmatize it, especially in college athletics. And then from there, I decided to create a podcast for that, just for fun. And that's where I interviewed different people that I had on the blog and just talked about anything health and wellness related and had super raw and real conversations to make people feel not alone.
With finding passions outside of lacrosse, Taylor realized the importance of trying new things and finding your identity outside of your sport.
When you're more well balanced, you're able to realize that this one thing, this sport, however I perform in it does not define me. I have so many other things that make up who I am and that just like relieves so much pressure from you.
As her final season as an athlete begins, Taylor continues to use her voice and passion to inspire others around her.
Mental health continues to be prevalent for student athletes everywhere. A recent study from the National Institutes of Health shows that student athletes are at risk for anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. If you feel isolated or need help with mental health challenges, please seek out CU's counseling and psychiatric services.
There's always been a stigma surrounding mental health and the way that it's dealt with by different groups of people. Student athletes are no different. Many student athletes say that seeing a school-appointed counselor is intimidating and will opt for other options first. I met with one student athlete who was on a mission to destigmatize mental health issues. In the world of college athletics, where triumphs are celebrated and records are broken, the limelight rarely shines on the inner battles that many athletes face.
A lot of people that put these like these different prejudice or stereotypes on me, and I try not to focus on that, and I try and talk to people that are that look like me or that have also kind of been through the same things that I've been through.
Meet Ian Gilmore, a sprinter at the University of Colorado Boulder, whose journey is more than just a series of victories on the track. As he laces up his spikes and takes his mark on the starting line, he carries with him the weight of a unique mission: to destigmatize mental health issues among athletes. At first glance, Ian appears to be the epitome of strength and determination. His chiseled physique and blazing speed have earned him a reputation as a force to be reckoned with on the track. Beneath the veneer of a powerhouse athlete lies a story of struggle and resilience.
For me personally, I talk to my mom, and she really helps me kind of get through that hump if I'm feeling down. And also, if I'm not able to talk to my mom, then I'll talk to my coach. I like talking to my coach about just what I'm going through in life, because he's a really good person where I can just kind of relate to.
Ian's tipping point came in the form of a debilitating anxiety attack in 2020, just when students were sent home for their extended spring break. Unable to use training as a distraction, he was forced to confront his own mental health issues.
Me and my dad specifically were butting heads a lot for a multitude of different reasons. I'm not gonna get into that, but during that time, it was really hard for me to kind of focus on what I really wanted to do and what I liked doing the most, which was track.
The relentless demands of training, the expectation of victory, and the fear of disappointing his coaches and family are constants in his life.
Athletes are open to talking about it, but nobody kind of wants to go deep into how they actually feel and what they're how they feel about their mental health, because that can be kind of scary to people.
What started out as simple conversations with his fellow teammates in an effort to break the mental health stigma amongst athletes quickly turned into something that he and his teammates do often to make sure that they're on the right path.
I feel like organizations should kind of prioritize making groups in athletics, so we can kind of break those barriers and talk about those things.
According to an NCAA student athlete well-being study that surveyed almost 10,000 student athletes, fewer than half of them felt they wouldn't be comfortable speaking to a mental health provider on campus, but over 60% reported knowing how to help a teammate experiencing a mental health issue.
CU offensive lineman lineman Tyler Brown shared recently his struggles with mental health and his depression and anxiety. To him, playing football brings him peace and helps him cope with these mental health issues, but a recent NCAA decision left him benched for a year. Without the thing that helped him cope, Brown turned a few pages and found some inspiring information.
That's the one thing about, being on the line.
Tyler Brown's Saturdays involve around 50,000 less people than his teammates, who get to be center stage on Folsom Field. Instead, Tyler spends a lot of game days here, his couch.
My name's Tyler Brown. I'm born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. I transferred from Jackson State here to Colorado, and I'm a redshirt sophomore, but losing this year thanks to the NCAA decision. So I'll be a redshirt junior next year. I'm going to be a senior in the
Tyler's
spring.
journey with college football and his mental health go hand in hand with one another. He started at Louisiana Lafayette, where he made a special bond with the coaching staff, particularly Coach DJ Looney, who tragically passed away in practice. This had a massive toll on Tyler's mental health, and he decided to transfer home to Jackson, Mississippi to play at Jackson State under head coach Deion Sanders, to be closer with his family for his mental health. When Deion Sanders went to Colorado, so did Tyler, but the move wasn't entirely football related.
Jackson State's amazing. Jackson State does have free mental health sources, but for the stuff I needed and the things I deal with, I had to be referred out to a psychiatrist to be taken care of. And the school didn't cover that.
The NCAA has a rule requiring players to sit out a year if they transferred to a new school more than once in their college career, and they denied Tyler's request to play this season. Tyler requested to be exempt from the rule due to the move being heavily related to his mental health.
Most game days, I've cried, after the games, just frustrated tears, seeing Shador get hurt, just not being able to help my linemen out there, not being able to contribute in the way I want to contribute. It really bothers me because I'm a team first person.
Tyler is still able to practice and use the same facilities the team uses, but he has to miss out on game days as he's not eligible to compete. With the biggest part of football being denied to him, Tyler turned to some of the most impactful people in his life for advice, who are often just a page or button away.
I'm a big nerd. I love reading comic books. I love collecting books in general, comics. I love playing PlayStation 5, currently playing Spider-Man 2 right now, trying to platinum that, if you know what that means, basically getting all the trophies. Gonna go back and play Final Fantasy 16, get all the trophies in there. Just kind of leave reality for a little bit and read about somebody else's problems.
One character in particular stands out a bit more than the rest, and it's not hard to guess which one if you just take a quick look around his apartment.
Of course, Spider-Man. I mean, that's like how can you, a guy that's just, making a difference, that's just like you and me, has to struggle with money problems and everything. Like Stanley said, the thing why he made Spider-Man the way he did, what covered everything, was he wanted every kid to feel like they could be Spider-Man, right? Like you put the mask on and you could be him. That was my hero. That's what I used to cope, was reading comic books. And that's why I got really big into comics, because that was my escape.
Tyler has the superhuman strength part down to be a superhero, but more importantly, he has the drive to help others, so when football is done, he can be his own neighborhood-friendly Tyler Brown.
I just want to be somebody that's just remembered for helping people and doing a lot of good in life. I want to be a speech pathologist in a high school setting in a predominantly African-American community, or work in a hospital setting with older people and stroke patients and just things like that. I just want to make a difference and a positive impact. And that's just what, I feel like.
This has been Jimmy Searfoss. There are 10 listed campus resources at the University of Colorado on their website, but the World Health Organization lists doing things that you enjoy as one of the top ways to keep yourself mentally healthy. Tyler's thing was with comic books and video games, but yours might be a little different. And if you need help with any mental health concerns, please reach out to colorado.edu/counseling. Coming up after the break, stories about the opportunities or lack thereof in the CU theater department. You're not going to want to miss this.
breathing life into characters seen in plays, on stage, and in movies.
It can be defined by imagination and performance, and it's one of the more unique ways to communicate stories that are innately human.
Many actors aspire for the best parts, but some find it can be an immense struggle to get those choice roles. We now go to correspondent Dakota Makinen, who shares with us one particular struggle.
With a royal first name, Marie Antoinette Banks is an acting major at CU Boulder. With a passion for theater, she makes time in her busy schedule to seek out new opportunities to hone in her craft. But sometimes she finds the opportunities are few.
Hair. What you wear? No, that's not fair.
An actor needs complete control of their voice. Here on the stage, these actors are being taught to get their voice out. As actors, they hope to work in the theater or in films. Marie Antoinette Banks, a junior theater major, is no exception.
I would like to be a professional actor. Swinging arms, you know? And when that man was...
Becoming a professional actor takes a lot of practice and many opportunities. And for one of only 2 black women in the theater department who consistently audition for plays, those opportunities seem limited.
Real life like a slave? No, I'm a free woman. I'm always thinking about where I fit into things. And I think it's one thing that really stresses me out and I don't like. It's like things that are completely out of my control can determine whether or not I work.
Marie is aware that not many of her classmates look like her.
It's definitely isolating. I'm kind of just like hyper aware of what I look like in comparison to everyone in this department. I kind of just feel like a sore thumb.
In the historical play The Revolutionists by Lauren Gunderson, Marie plays the role of Marianne.
I think her description is like a badass black woman in Paris.
Many historical plays tend to be about primarily white characters, which makes for fewer roles for black actors. The play only has 4 characters, but the department wanted to double cast, meaning there would be 8 actors playing the parts. And with only 2 black actors,
their options were kind of like pretty clear from the start.
Some actors may wonder what role they will receive, while Marie just knew that her and the other black actor would play the same part.
And I was frustrated, and I was kind of just like, I don't want to play into it.
She almost didn't take the role.
So I was kind of contemplating that.
The university strives to improve upon diversity and inclusion, but for students like Marie, there's still a long way to go. And the way we think about what diversity means in theater can be different in theory from execution.
Okay, so if you hear either of these sounds, so you just know if you hear this, it's paraphrasing.
I like to think of it in terms of equity, diversity, inclusion, and access, and how we can represent that in our programming, in our teaching, in our considerations of each other.
I don't think it should be mine nor anyone else's job to feel like it's their job to like patch the holes in this department, and I think that's kind of like what I was feeling.
Marie sums up her experience in the department as isolating at times.
Since The Revolutionists, I think it's like the most isolated I've ever felt in the department.
Is there even a solution to the lack of diversity in the theater department?
I know specifically for this department, we should always be aware of the casting pool we have when we're choosing shows. I think we just need to realize where we are. There's also plenty of amazing shows by diverse playwrights that come from all different types of backgrounds that don't have specified characters.
We can try as hard as we can in theater and dance, but if the population of the institution or the university is not the global majority, then we have a problem.
The show ending came with mixed emotions for Marie.
I still don't know whether it was mostly a positive or negative experience, I suppose.
Doing another show may bring that feeling of isolation again.
I think I might just need like my time and thinking space away from the department. And I always say that theater is the only place where I really feel like I have a voice.
The voice is an actor's most powerful instrument.
I think I want to figure out what that voice wants to say.
As the curtain comes to a close, and whether she plans to do another show again, there will always be another role.
CU's department isn't the only one on campus looking to improve diversity. The lack of diversity in the theater world is also widespread. A 2019 study by the Asian American Performers Actor Coalition shows that over half of actors on New York City stages were white. The Hollywood strike that ended last month featured many voices of women of color striving to protect the generations of performers to come.
Pit stop.
Acting is more than just performing and making connections. It's also about working in collaboration with large groups of people. This includes ways to find your voice creatively and to apply your talents in spaces that allow for experimentations. Sometimes in academics, these spaces can be hard to find, but I found a place here where CU students and CU artists can make their skills and make time to play.
What is creativity? Is it music scratching on a record, words that are spread across paper, or a drop of paint sliding down a canvas?
The dancing, the staying up late, like everyone's romantic idea of what an artist should be.
Yeah, the romantic idea. If anyone on campus would know, it would be the students of the CU Sandbox. Sandbox is a student-run and student-led theater group on campus. Created 5 years ago, Sandbox is meant to allow students to get involved outside of the CU Presents main stage production. It's not all theater and acting, though. This semester, along with 2 fully realized productions, A Streetcar Named Desire and Dog Sees God, they have also produced an art gallery along with a drag show, with another production, Red, and a stage reading on the way. Most CU Present shows are done in a space like this, the Row Green Theater, but the Sandbox has a lot more limited space to work with, doing it in a space more like this, a black box theater. As you can see, the audience is much closer to you, leaving very little room for the actors and the building of the set. Many would see this as a downfall, but these limitations lead to more intimate performances and far more versatility, if you're creative enough.
Sandbox isn't about the money or bringing in audiences. Sandbox is about really getting to the heart in theater and art and performance, I think, and really just giving students a space to be, like fully express themselves.
Having a space to truly express yourself is something not too often found, but students working together on a shared passion and enjoying every step of the way, well, I don't know what creativity could mean but that.
Studies show that performing in theater can help with your academic work. Memorization, text analysis, and thinking quickly on your feet are all things theater courses can help you improve.
Coming up after the break, communities coming together to take out the trash and bake bread. Stay tuned for right here on the Boulder Basement Broadcast.
Our next story is about trash.
More specifically, the people who take care of waste after a CU football game. But stay tuned, because following that story, we have one about making bread.
Hey there, Buffs fans. Today we're in for a game day experience like never before. Join us as we showcase the behind-the-scenes efforts that make CU football not only an athletic spectacle, but a pillar of environmental stewardship.
This season, the excitement around CU football is off the charts. With Dion at the helm, the team has seen an incredible surge in fans and attention, making every game a must-watch event. But here's the kicker. CU Boulder isn't just scoring on the field, they're also winning big in sustainability. In the midst of this football frenzy, university staff and student volunteers are tackling waste, proving that even with a record-breaking influx of fans, CU is still committed to making a positive impact on the environment.
A lot of things have changed this season because of what's happening with the new coaching and the staffing and the new team. There's just been a ton of volume and a lot of extra added attention. That's made it not necessarily harder, it's just more volume, more time, more effort. I'd say we'd probably generate as much in a game day that we do maybe in 3 to 4 days on campus. And we've already collected 520 cubic yards of recycling this year, which my colleague put together as 7,000 kitchen bags. It definitely takes a village to put on a football game. We have a lot of collaboration with all their departments on campus, as well as our facilities folks, our athletics folks, our grounds folks, so everyone kind of works together. And so it's kind of this huge, huge group effort to make the game day work. The grounds folk put out all the perimeter stations around the stadium and on the main tailgate areas just adjacent to the stadium. All that setup happens on Thursday and Friday, and then all during the game, most of the day, we're cleaning up all those while the game's happening, and then coming back to the game and sorting after. What we don't fill during the game, afterwards the ROTC folks come in and they clean the whole stadium and they fill the other half of the roll-offs. This is the first year we've had multiple after hours, as I think Coach Prime called it, games, and it's been really hard on our staff. And a lot of these folks, I mean us included, work daily shifts here on campus. So if it were snowing or there were things that needed to happen on campus, a lot of the grounds folk are mandatory. They have to be here to shovel snow or whatnot. So or they have to be here for their shift on Monday morning at 6 a.m. So if they're up all night on a Saturday or a Friday, it makes it really tricky. Plus, everyone's got things going on and lives and kids and whatnot. So it is tricky. It is an extra ask of people on campus to do this. But most of the folks at work, I'd say it's like a half and half split between permanent staff or like full-time staff versus student staff, but it's still hard on them as well because they have their studies and school and whatnot. But we basically hand sort. It's about 4 to 6 hours, 20 people per game. So we try to get out the most valuable things first, obviously. Cardboard, aluminum, food. So we're gonna really focus on the things that we know are gonna have the most value to get out of the landfill. If you open up a bag, you're gonna look and see okay, what's the majority of this bag? Is it mostly landfill? If it is, I'm gonna pull out that handful of hot dogs and the pop cans and the beer cans quickly, and then I'm gonna toss that bag in the trash because sometimes we only have 30 seconds with a bag. Until you sort trash, you really don't understand how connecting it can be with other people, kind of like that game day connection of people being here to cheer on a team. It's really just a team of people that are trying to make a difference, and it's a really feel good. It's almost like a high that people get really like that, I don't know, endorphin rush or dopamine or something. They're just wow, I just did this. This is part of me, and you see this roll off full of cans. That wouldn't have happened if those students and that staff didn't do that. So it's kind of exciting.
And there you have it, folks. Whether CU wins or not, one thing is for sure. There will be a lot of trash, and the students will have their hands in it.
According to the Whole Grains Council, studies say the average person should eat at least 6 servings of grains per day. What better way to accomplish that goal than chomping on a fresh loaf of bread? Not only is bread a delicious food that can pair well with really anything, bread also has symbolic and religious meanings. Challah, for one, is a very prominent and funky-shaped bread in the Jewish community that unites religion and ethnicity together. Let's take a look at how different cultures can be identified by bread and their shapes. 10,000 years ago, a pivotal time in human history and evolution involved a strenuous and labor-intensive process which included removing husks, kneading dough, then baking it. With over 8 billion people, about 4,000 religions, and 193 countries, together there are over 6,000 different types of bread.
Walnut. I'm Austin Darcy, and I'm a bread/sweets baker here. Great harvest. I stocked all of this today, and we do actually mill our own whole wheat flour.
Darcy starts his day of baking at 4 a.m. to ensure the bread has enough time to rise in order to satisfy every customer. Though this may seem impossible for others, Darcy appreciates the early hours as he views it as meaningful and symbolic.
As it's going on the mixer, the sun is coming up, you know, so it's like the bread is rising, the sun is rising, and it's like, I don't know, there's something about that feels so good. I don't know, it's very comforting. It's a great metaphor, I think. Honestly, just like a form of meditation, a way that really just like connects me with the earth.
As a baker, Darcy has the advantage and benefits to make and eat any type of bread he pleases, though he still does have a favorite.
My favorite thing would be the challah. You know, you want to talk about bread that brings people together, it's going to be the challah. You know, because of the religious aspects, there's a lot of traditions because of it too. You know, it takes a lot of hard work, you know, all 4 bakers on the table just kneading it and having to braid it and all of that. And the rewarding when it comes out of the oven because, you know, it looks like gold.
Bread comes in many different shapes and sizes, and some kinds look funkier than others, especially when they vary from different religions and ethnicities. Greeks have triangular-shaped pita bread, Indians have tear-shaped naan bread, and Jews and the people of Israel have a braided bread called challah.
So I think that challah is probably the most resonant food for Jews. I think the reason is that no matter how like secular a person is, if they're Jewish, challah was probably part of their life, you know?
Whether it be from learning how to make challah at Hebrew school or with your family, challah allows for people to feel happy and connected.
Growing up, I always made challah with my mom, and I think a lot of Jewish people did grow up making challah, and it was always a really fun activity because it was just something that was like filled with joy and happiness and warmth.
In attempts to join the Jewish community together at the University of Colorado Boulder, Shira Fink has planned a challah baking event at the Hillel Center for Jewish Life to raise money for a special event.
We're trying to get Comedy for Peace to come, which is an organization that brings together like people from all different backgrounds to have like a comedy show to show that despite anyone's like differences, that we can all like come together through joy and comedy.
Through this challah baking event, Fink not only hopes to bring this organization to campus, but she hopes the students build meaningful connections with each other as they make and eat the challah.
I think there is something to be said about like, not to be punny, but like coming to a table and breaking bread with somebody else and, you know, taking time to actually sit down and talk with someone. And when it comes to making bread, I mean, it's the same thing. You're sitting next to somebody doing the same activity and you're getting to know them a little bit better, more so than if you just like saw them passing on the street.
Challah has different meanings depending on how many strands it has. 3 strands represent truth, peace, and justice, and 4 or more symbolize love since they look like arms intertwined. Regardless of how many strands challah has, it is still a delicious unifying device in the Jewish community. I'm hungry now. Connect with your local Jewish center or community to spread the happiness and joy that comes with each bite of challah.
And that is all we got for you here today on the Boulder Basement Broadcast. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jimmy Searfoss.
And I'm Sarah Grimm. See you next time back in the basement.